Welcome back to Fact Slap. I know it's been a long time. You must forgive me. I brought presents. But the real gift is this video here today. We're going to have a conspiracy showdown where I'm going to list off 3 conspiracies and you're going to have to guess just which one is false. Now tape up your windows, put on your tinfoil hats, because this is Fact Slap. Conspiracy number 1. JP Morgan committed insurance fraud back in 1912, swapping the Titanic for the Olympic and then sinking the Olympic to get the money. Now, what does JP Morgan have to do with the Titanic? Well, let me explain. He was a man before he was a bank, a businessman and an investor. So he went out and bought the International Navigation Company, and then changed the name to the International Mercantile Marine. And their job was to go out and buy other shipping lines to invest in. The White Star Line happened to be one, and they were the owners of the Titanic, as well as the Zealandic, which was actually sold off in 1939, weighing in at a total of 8,090 gross registered tons. And then comes the Nomadic, which is the only White Star Line ship still in existence, coming in at about 1,273 gross registered tons. And then the Traffic, which was sold in 1927 and weighed a total of 674 tons. And then comes the Olympic, which was scrapped in 1935, weighing a total of 45,324 gross registered tons. And last but not least was the Belgic. It was sold in 1913 and weighed a total of 9,748 gross registered tons. But the heaviest of all, the Titanic, sank on her maiden voyage and weighed a total of 46,328 gross registered tons. Stop. I know what you're thinking. How in the is somebody weighing a boat? They're not. Let me tell you. Gross registered tons refers to the actual enclosed internal space of a ship. So the Titanic had about 46,000 tons of internal space. Now the actual displacement or real weight of the Titanic would be around 52,000 tons or 104,000 pounds. Now JP Morgan owned all of these boats through the International Mercantile Marine. And I can see you asking, what would he have to gain from sinking the Titanic, which was swapped for the Olympic? Well, the Olympic had been previously damaged, causing hundreds of thousands in repairs. And with an insurance policy of over $5 million, this would guarantee JP Morgan would get paid more than he could ever get from selling it or scrapping the ship. And there is just a mountain of evidence for this. Like for one, JP Morgan did have tickets to go on the maiden voyage of the Titanic, yet he called in a mere 5 days before, claiming he was sick. And for two, as you can see here, the Titanic and the Olympic have some very distinct differences. And that boat on the bottom of the ocean just happens to have the same windows that the Olympic would have.
What?
And for three, I don't know if you've ever read the book called Futility, written in 1898 by Morgan Robertson. It's a story about a boat called the Titan, an unsinkable ship where some very rich and powerful men go down on its maiden voyage. Well, this book actually predicts that they get hit by an iceberg on the correct side in almost the exact same area where the Titan happens to sink. And there is a lot more evidence where that came from, but we are on a bit of a time crunch. So, moving on. Conspiracy number 2. The CIA has a weapon that can make it look like you died of natural causes. Can you even call yourself a government if you can't assassinate people in secret? I mean, come on, where's the right to privacy? When the government has classified information, it usually sits that way for about 25 years or so, and after a short review process, and if they deem it necessary, they'll release the information to the public, thus our conversation here today. So the theory goes, the CIA has a weapon that could make it look like you died from natural causes. So much so that the coroner wouldn't find any evidence of what killed you. No toxins, nothing. And what exactly would something like that look like?
It's practically a normal 45, although it's special. However, it works by electricity. There's a battery in the handle, and it fires a small dart.
Would it make noise or anything like that?
Very little. Almost silently, yes.
And what exactly would you fire out of this weapon?
There are different kinds of these flechettes that were used in various weapon systems, and a special one was developed which potentially would be able to enter the target without perception.
Making a mark only as big as a mosquito bite would be very easy for a coroner to miss. And the dart that would come out of this gun would usually be made of some type of shellfish poison or a toxin, things like that. So, point proven, moving on. Conspiracy number 3. The government can control the weather and is being a dick about it. Maybe you've seen it before, looking up in the sky, watching a jet go by, and that trail just happens to stay around a bit too long. Well, that's because you're right. Those are chemtrails, also known as cloud seeding, where a plane goes up in the sky and releases chemicals to change what happens in the atmosphere, enhancing the rain, sleet, snow, and or stop it from doing any of those.
Common seeding agents used are dry ice, the solid form of carbon dioxide, silver iodide, or simple salts like sodium chloride.
And the government's control of the weather goes quite a bit deeper than, things like just controlling the surface weather.
The Air Force is on record as saying, quote, they want to control the weather by 2025, and we are not talking about just seeding the clouds for rain.
Now, we're not sure exactly how much control is going on, but there was research done and it's been completed.
We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere, be able to actually control it. But that work has been completed.
Now, I'm not going to go in depth on this, but instead of cloud seeding or releasing chemicals into the atmosphere, now it's shooting lasers into the atmosphere, so see if you can see one. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Cool, I think you get it. But which conspiracy do you happen to think is false? That's right, the Titanic. You guessed it. Even though I showed you those windows at the bottom of the ocean, I'm not even sure what happened there, but they did confirm it was the Titanic by the numbers on the propeller.
The number 401 was the Titanic's official identification number. Proof positive that it was not the Olympic that went down that April night in 1912.
As well as the name on the front of the ship and the signature boilers that would only have been in the Titanic.
The first object we saw where we knew we had the Titanic was one of the 27 distinct boilers on the bottom.
As well as you would have had to dry dock it to change the propellers, and the name on the Titanic was actually scratched in the metal and painted in, so you would have had to change that whole piece of metal, which couldn't have been done in secret. So, sorry, this was also proven like way back in the 80s as well. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Fact Slap, and never forget, keep your fact hands strong.